Think back to a single summer when you were a kid. Not one specific day, the whole summer. It felt enormous, didn't it? Endless afternoons that seemed to stretch out forever. A stretch of freedom so long that September felt like it belonged to a different lifetime. Now, think about last year. Go ahead. Try to find it. Where did it go? You blinked, and 12 entire months evaporated. Same amount of time. Completely different feeling. Somewhere along the way, without any warning, time quietly hit fast forward. The years that used to crawl now sprint past, faster and faster, and at some point you started saying things like, "I can't believe it's already December." So here's the question. Why does time speed up as you get older? And is there anything you can actually do to slow it back down? The first thing to get straight is that time itself isn't changing. A year is exactly 365 days whether you're 8 or 80. Clocks don't tick faster for adults. The sun doesn't set any sooner. So the acceleration you're feeling isn't out there in the world. It's happening inside your head. Which means the real question isn't, why is time speeding up? It's, why does your brain keep lying to you about how much of it has passed? And the answer is stranger than, you're just busier now. Let's start with the most famous explanation, because it's beautifully simple. Back in the 1800s, a philosopher named Paul Janet noticed something almost too obvious to see. Every year of your life is measured against the total amount of life you've already lived. When you're 5 years old, 1 year is a full fifth of your entire existence. It's a fifth of everything you have ever known. Of course, it feels gigantic. But when you're 50, that same year is only 1/50th of your life, about 2%. The year didn't shrink. Your frame of reference grew. Each new year is a thinner and thinner slice of an ever bigger pie, so it feels proportionally smaller. By this logic, the gap between ages 5 and 10 can feel every bit as long as the gap between 40 and 80. It's a clean, satisfying answer. There's just one problem. It's not the whole story. Because proportional theory explains the math, but it doesn't explain the feeling. And the feeling has almost nothing to do with arithmetic. It has to do with memory. Here's the strange part. Your brain doesn't actually track how much time has passed. When you look back on a stretch of your life, it doesn't check a clock. It estimates. And the way it estimates is by quietly counting how many memories are stored in that stretch. Lots of memories, and the period feels long and full. Few memories, and it feels like it barely happened at all. Now think about childhood. Almost everything was a first. Your first bike, your first day of school. The first time you saw the ocean. The first time you tasted something amazing. The first time you stayed up past midnight and felt like you'd gotten away with something. Your brain was drowning in brand new, vivid, never-before-seen experiences, and it recorded memory after memory after memory. So when you look back, that time feels vast because it's densely packed. There's so much in there. Now, think about a typical week as an adult. You wake up to the same alarm, the same commute, the same desk, the same lunch, the same drive home, and the same traffic. Your brain has seen all of this before, hundreds of times. So it stops bothering to record the details. Routine is basically invisible to memory. An entire month of ordinary life can leave behind almost nothing worth saving. So in hindsight, it collapses into a single gray blur. Scientists sometimes call this the holiday paradox. A week somewhere brand new feels long while you're living it, and long when you remember it, because it's stuffed with novelty. But the ordinary months in between feel like they evaporate, because your brain quietly decided none of it was worth keeping. But here's where it gets genuinely strange, because time can actually run at two different speeds at once. There's the time you feel in the moment, and the time you feel looking back, and they don't agree with each other. A boring, repetitive afternoon can feel like it drags on forever while you're trapped in it, and then vanish completely the second you try to remember it. Meanwhile, a thrilling day full of new things flies by in the moment and then feels huge in your memory. Your brain is keeping two different clocks, and the one that decides whether your life felt long or short isn't the one ticking right now. It's the one doing the remembering. And underneath all of it, your actual internal clock is changing too. Your brain has rough timekeeping machinery, and it runs partly on a chemical called dopamine. When you're young, dopamine is abundant, and your internal clock ticks quickly, which, strangely, makes the outside world feel slower. Because your brain is taking lots of little snapshots of reality for every minute that goes by. As you get older, dopamine gradually declines. Your internal clock slows down, and you take fewer mental snapshots per minute. The result? The outside world appears to speed up to compensate. Some researchers go even further and argue that as the brain ages, it simply processes images more slowly. So we literally perceive fewer frames per second. You're watching the same movie you always have, but your projector is running slower, so everything on screen seems to rush past. There's also the cruel little trick of perspective. When you're 10, the summer ahead of you is a huge chunk of the life you can actually remember, so it looms enormous. When you're 40, the entire next year sits on top of decades of other years, and your mind compresses it to match. We don't feel time in flat, even amounts. We feel it in proportion to everything that came before. And that pile only ever gets taller. So put it all together. Each passing year is a smaller fraction of your life. Your days have become familiar, so your brain has stopped recording most of them. The clock inside your head is ticking a little slower every year. And the version of you keeping score, the one that decides whether a stretch of time felt long or short, is working off a memory bank that's getting thinner and thinner. That's why the years blur together, not because they're shorter, because they're emptier. But notice what that actually means, because hidden inside the bad news is the cure. If time feels fast because your life has become predictable, then the antidote is novelty. Your brain stretches time around anything new. A single weekend somewhere you've never been will leave behind more memory, and therefore take up more room in your life than a month of autopilot. You can't add days to your life, but you can make the days you already have take up more space. Learn the thing you keep putting off. Take the different route home. Say yes to the trip. Pick up the hobby. Have the conversation. Break the routine your brain has quietly learned to ignore. Every genuinely new experience is a tiny act of rebellion against time speeding up. A way of forcing your brain to wake up and start recording again. Because that's the real secret those endless childhood summers were hiding. They didn't feel longer because you were young. They felt longer because everything was new, and you were paying attention to all of it. Time never actually sped up on you. Life just got familiar, and the moment you start filling it with things worth remembering again, you'll notice the strangest thing. The years that matter slowly begin to stretch back out.